I've been watching a lot more cartoonist kayfabe lately, and their wizard commentary videos have been really interesting, really good. And I've noticed in a couple of them that different creators have remarked or complained or pointed out that there's a large female readership out there that the big publishers in particular are not going after. I think Chris Claremont said it. Evan Dorkin said it. Is Evan Dorkin his name? I feel like that's a alt rock guy. But anyway, indie creators, uh, Chris Claremont, a couple of people have mentioned, hey, there's this large female readership out there. Comics should be doing more to, bring them into the fold, as it were, or um, target them as readers. And I think the big issue or the big problem with that is that um, today, in particular, or in the past few years, superhero comics have been geared more towards uh, women or a certain type of woman reader, and a lot of well, just SJWs. I don't. There's not another clever way to say it. So you have these publishers who are trying to. I mean, I guess Perch would say to grow or expand the audience, but a lot of other people would say replace the average or the old head comic fans with an entirely new audience that they believe are larger and have more buying power or also just better people. So you have the situation where, going as far back as, Wizard's heyday till now, this idea that there's so many women readers out there, we should be doing more to appeal to them and to get their business or to, I don't know, make them feel safe. I mean, you hear it now in video games as well. Like the reason why, female characters are looking less attractive, less shapely. They're not as hypersexualized, although this hypersexualized is something that's exaggerated. I mean, you could just have a woman be busty, and all of a sudden she's hypersexualized. Look at J. Scott Campbell. You can have, he can draw Mary Jane Watson sitting on a couch in a unusual pose with a cup of coffee or tea in her, lap, and all of a sudden it's the most objectionable thing in the world. She's fully dressed, but then she's busty, has little hips, all of a sudden it's the most outrageous thing imaginable. And so it's weird though, because this idea that, oh, we need to bring more, there's women readers out there who are interested in this sort of thing, or could be interested in this sort of thing. Um, I think it's a fallacy though. The idea that all you have to do is appeal to women by doing things that men or taking away things men like. Um, it kind of you're shooting yourself in the foot because you're losing the male audience and you're not necessarily gaining a larger female audience or gay audience or gender neutral audience like all these different groups on Twitter who are making all this noise about the diversity and identity in superhero comics or in video games even. So on the one hand, they'll say something like Star Wars or superhero comics are made for babies and just made to sell toys. But on the other hand, they insist that those things be made to cater to their interests, even though ultimately they're not interested in it. So you have piracy, and you have people. There was that woman, I think she deleted her account. She had a young woman who did the tweet a week or so ago, a couple of days ago, saying, stop attacking people or trying to shame people for being, for pirating things, which is just absurd. I mean, it's not a virtue to say, it's silly to say, basically, normalize not shaming people for not, for stealing. And the thing is, it's not a big deal to me. Like, I don't own this shit. I want to support creators. So I'm not waving the flag of it's all right to pirate. And I'm also not waving the flag of you're the worst person in the world if you do. But let's not make a virtue out of it. Let's not pretend this is just, oh yeah, it's fine, it's no big deal. We want DC, Marvel, video games, or whatever to cater to our demands, but we're actually not going to buy this shit. Now, I don't know where I said this. I may have said this in a previous video, but I understood, or have been understanding recently, that the reason why SJWs hate the term customer and hate the whole sort of, or make light or make fun of this idea that, you know, uh, video games or comic publishers are essentially, in their creators are essentially customer service, is because they don't want to have a distinction between people who actually pay for this shit over them who don't pay for it but still feel like they have some kind of voting power and feel like they have a right for their pet issues to exist. Um, in superhero comics, it's really silly to me to like try to appeal to women and a lot of different, like I said, marginalized people on Twitter when superhero comics inherently are problematic and inherently don't really appeal to every type of person in the world. I mean, a good, simple superhero comic with cool, simple adventures should generally appeal to people who like adventure and fun. Um, there's a generational thing going on that has been going on for years where, today we have kids who are more into TikTok and video games than they are into comics. But comics keep trying to chase after a younger audience by doing things that alienates their current readership. And now it's become this thing where it's okay to alienate the established audience for the most part because they're not good people. So while you have all these people who say, we need more representation in comics, particularly superhero comics, they don't necessarily give a shit if you do it. They're not going to pay for it, and they don't inherently like superheroes. It's too violent. The figures are too idealized. So even if you put more women in comics, so there are plenty of women in comics, they have been forever. We talk about the characters themselves. If they, most of them, the superhero women, most of them are just, hotties in one way or the other. That's a problem for people who don't really care about superhero comics. So you're trying to appeal to people who don't care about superhero comics, but superhero comics are inherently problematic to these people. So it's like that's a Stephen King line in It. Big Bill Denbrough, is wandering around Derry after the reunion with the rest of the losers who were able to make it. He's an adult at this time, and he kind of bumps into this kid with scuffed up knees, and they kind of become friends as they're talking. And the kid has a skateboard, and at a certain point, Big Bill says to the kid when he's leaving, he asks the kid questions about what's it like to live in Derry because kids are more in tune to the fucked up shit. And at first, the kid doesn't want to tell him, and then at a certain point, he tells him like different stories about the town of Derry and the kind of things that he's heard about, and how he does believe that there's like a monster in the town, even though that's supposed to be silly. But anyway, he's like, yeah, look, Denbro tells the kid, yeah, look, just be careful, even though it sounds silly, be careful about, certain areas. Don't go to certain houses that are abandoned or weird. Don't do too much exploring because you and I both know there's a monster out here. And the kid said, yeah, I was afraid of that. I mean, I know. I figured it was like that. I was trying to be cool, but yeah, I know they're monsters. So he's about to leave him. And he says, hey, be careful. on that thing. And the kid tells him, "You can't be careful on a skateboard," and leaves. And that's how I feel about superhero comics. You can't water it down to appease people who don't like. The thing is, they don't understand inherently what comics, superhero comics in particular, are about. They're going to be idealized. And if you can't take a shapely, busty chick with her butt hanging out in a boob window in a cape, then you're not going to really be able to appreciate a superhero comic, and you really shouldn't have anything to say about it. You either like it or lump it. It's wrong to say I want to read superhero comics, but they have to be tailored to my taste. It's one thing for the average reader, a regular reader, to say, "Hey, these superhero stories that you're doing in this particular issue, like these Batman stories, suck. You got to do a better job at this." That's one thing. But it's another thing to say, "Why is she flying around with the cape? That's so um, impractical." Even I was listening to Perch, his Friday night drinks. I was listening to part of it, and Jeffrey Thorne, the Green Lantern writer, was complaining about Supergirl's skirt. And I stopped watching it because I'm like, I am so tired of the impractical argument. He was basically saying, "Oh, the skirt is so impractical. Why would you fly with that? They should just give her shorts." And it's like, you can draw Supergirl with a skirt without showing what she's wearing underneath. She probably just wears like, it's probably just looks like a little swimsuit, whatever. It doesn't, it's not a thong, so it's not really a big deal. It's, or it probably looks like what the tennis ladies used to wear back in the day. I think they wear more short, sporty looking shorts now, but there was a time when they didn't wear that. But it was never a big deal the way these girls look. You could appreciate that they looked attractive, but no one was going around attacking women because Supergirl's hot or Wonder Woman is hot. That's just something that they use now to, get rid of it. They use that to try to get rid of it. And I mean, they've been doing a good job of making women shapeless. Look at the fake Captain Marvel. The real Captain Marvel to me is Monica Rambeau. Carol Danvers is Miss Marvel. This crap where they've turned her into a feminist icon is bullshit. And it has nothing to do with superheroes, which is why, not that women can't represent feminism or be like represent strong women, but the sex negative feminism, the loud Twitter social justice Karen version of feminism, when they look at uh, straight hipless, and I don't mean straight sexually, I just mean like looks like a bean pole. I think was it your boy Zach was saying that. I think it was your boy Zach. No, it was actually Eric July was saying that in one comic, uh, Captain Marvel looked just like fucking Silent. No, Jay. Jay from Jay and Silent Bob. And she did. She had a backwards cap. She had no shape. It was like a joke. And they drew her like this. And that's, they did it to defeat the male gaze, but she looked like a complete clown. But you almost need a separate imprint to appeal to the people who are clamoring for more representation, for less violence in comics, for more neutral and tame villains. So, like, superheroes endanger children. They have sexy, hot women. They have, buff, idealized men. They have billionaires who dress up like bats and wear super, armor to go out and fight crime. So that's another thing. They complained about Bruce Wayne or Tony Stark not doing more to improve society, improve the city with their money. But this isn't how superhero comics work. It's about the adventure. It's about, them fighting villains. They're about dressing up and going out in space or fighting a crocodile in the sewers or a guy who paints his face up like a clown that's going around shooting people. Like in real life, Joker should be dead already. There's no way that you can reasonably, like Batman would reasonably not kill this motherfucker because of all, after all the horrible shit he's done. But you can't do that in a superhero comic because he's a great villain, Joker, and you're always going to need him for a story at some point. Um, I feel like if you're a writer who wants to see things change in a story, then you shouldn't write for an established property. If you were to be like, if you want to write a superhero comic that changes, then you could do your own, create your own work, like Invincible. Invincible changes all sorts of ways, you know. And Invincible is one of the greatest comics ever made. Even though I have issues with it, ultimately, I tore through all the omnibuses for that comic recently. I haven't even bothered to watch it on Amazon because I'm just not interested. I hate the race bending. I hate all the changes that they will make, that I just know that they're going to make. Even if um, it might be entertaining, I'm just over comic adaptations that don't hew to the source material better. Uh, but yeah, I think ultimately, I'm just, I don't understand, and I guess it's just weakness in the management of these publishers. Well, all they do is hear people complain and they just try to shut them up or try to appease them. And then they hire people who are from that milieu. They're from that group. So you have people like Vita Ayala, Danny Lore, or whatever, people who don't really write good superhero stories. They don't, they're not interested in adventures and action. They're interested in people who are not satisfied with the attention they have. They want more attention. They're interested in playing the, oh, this person looks gay, but they're actually straight. So they're playing, gender perception games, and they have people sitting around talking. It has nothing to do with superhero comics. Now, even without these sort of identity issues, identity elements, there still have always been problems with comic books not being written properly because you always have a writer who wants to come in, a new writer on the title who wants to make big changes that are annoying and frustrating. So instead of you getting what you want, like, when Nick Spencer did Captain America, he made Captain America a fucking Nazi. So you have to read these fucking stories of Captain America's a Nazi. And, someone will tell you, oh, well, there's always change in comics, so you just go along with the story. But the way comics are written now, the Nazi storyline would be 3 issues back in the day. Now it's like 2 years. So you can't, you know instantly when there's going to be a big change that you're going to have to sit there and read this shit forever until somebody else comes along or until they just finally end that storyline, you know. And that's a lot of the problem. Besides the SJWs, are the writers who are trying to make comics, superhero comics, prestige television, and are constantly deconstructing what superheroes are and what they fucking mean. So you have Tom King constantly shitting on Batman because his whole idea of a powerful character is Catwoman. Batman is just a toxic male who hates himself and can't get over the death of his parents. And Batman doesn't mean anything. It's just something he's doing because he can't think of anything else. Otherwise, he just shrivel up and die. And so the big problem for the big two in particular, and for superhero comics by the big two, is that you don't have bright, competent people shepherding these stories and protecting these brands. They hire people from the same pool of shitty people on Twitter who make demands about pop culture that they're not invested in financially, emotionally, or anything. Their brand is to find something to complain about and to complain about it. Sean was on Twitter today, tweeting about somebody or some people. I don't know if it was just one person, but he did a charity stream for children, and then someone complained that he only did the charity stream with one streamer, and he didn't do it for a bunch of other leftist streamers. And he had made a snarky remark. And that's the thing about Sean. Sean's videos are great. His Twitter has gotten a little bit better, but he's kind of a prick on Twitter, and he's a little too smug. And he hasn't been that bad, but he was making some snarky remarks about the fact that, hey, I did a charity drive, but people still find a problem with it, because I didn't do a charity drive for a bunch of people or something like that. And that was nothing wrong with that. But he said it in a snarky kind of way. It wasn't bad though. I didn't say, "Oh, you prick." This time I'm just like, you know, I hope you understand this is what you get as an SJW. And then somebody did this to me with my Lindsay Ellis, my second Lindsay Ellis video, more about the whole canceling the canceler or whatever. But this thing about platforms. So he retweeted somebody telling him, you're using your platform to only to support a friend of yours, but you should have used it to help other leftist YouTubers. So it wasn't enough for him to just do a charity YouTuber with a friend who probably asked him, "Hey, you want to help me with this charity story? You want to be a part of this?" Sure, I'll do it. But that's not enough. You have to do it for everybody else too. It's like and I've said this before, in SJWs, they probably get it, but they don't care. But I was complaining about, what's that game? Ghost of Tsushima. Ghost of Tsushima is great, but I was complaining about someone's complaining that we didn't get the Mongols side of the story. That the Mongols were robbed of their voice because they were speaking their Mongolian language and dialects, and they weren't being translated. And it's like, I was ranting and raving on one of my videos about how, are you so stupid that you don't understand that a story has to take a perspective, that it has to take a stand? The story is, this island has been taken over by the Mongols. You are doing your best to repel them. How much of the fucking Mongols you have, how do you think the story is going to be if you have to split it down the middle and go, okay, so yeah, the Mongols have raided your town and killed your dad and killed your uncle or whatever and all this stuff. That's that's bad, but I'm sure they had a good reason for it. So let's listen to them and see their humanity. Um, this is why they love The Last of Us Part 2. They didn't play it, but they love it because they like the idea of seeing the two sides of the story. They think that that's novel, and they think that there's no problem with doing that. They don't understand the disconnect and the fact that you, as a player, are instantly disconnected when you play this game. I guess they think that you're just going to have conflicting emotions. Some people play that game. I noticed a lot of Twitch streamers or YouTubers women in particular, who were pissed at playing the game and pissed at having to play as Abby, and pissed at fighting Abby in the big boss, fighting as Abby against Ellie in the boss fight. Turned around when other sort of ham and eggers who uh, cape for Naughty Dog pressured them into appreciating how great it is, because if you complain about it, you're a bad person. So I'm not necessarily getting off track. It's just more the idea that you can't please everyone. In trying to please everyone, you get a damaged, lesser product. Superhero comics have been so watered down for the most part. That's why it was such a breath of fresh air, despite my issues with some of the art in Invincible. And I have to say, this is funny. I talk all this shit about SJWs, but one of the things that bugged me about Invincible was that pretty much all the black characters are pieces of shit in Invincible. They're not really good people. They're shitty, weaselly, hateful people, like all of them. The bad guys are really disgusting. The good guys are, they don't like. I'm not gonna get into it too much. This was something that I noticed, and I feel like at a certain point he made a soulful saint out of one guy near the end. One of the characters' boyfriends was a better character. But for the most part, most of the black guys in Invincible are not good characters or good people. I mean, some of them actually make good. Like one of his villains, like they have some of them are good characters, but some of them are shitty characters and also shitty people. But overall, the comic book is great. So, like I said, I could sit there and say, hey, I don't like these black characters, but it's not something that I would go to Kirkman and be like, yo, bro, why all the black people, I wouldn't really do that. I just go, yeah, I could see if anybody did complain, I would be like, yeah, I agree. These characters are shit. But ultimately, though, it's a great comic series. And so that's just one of the things that is a negative on it for me. But I don't think it harms society in any way. And I don't feel like, oh, well, he didn't represent me as a black man because he had these shitty black characters. Just said, yeah, these guys, for the most part, were trash. And like really insidious and weird. But but great superhero comic. So I don't know. Now I think I did go off track a little bit. I guess that's all I got to say. I've said quite a lot. It's weird. I never expect to have. I guess I just natter on because ultimately, my whole point is that superheroes are a problematic genre. Horror, I remember reading this years ago where they were like, horror is politically incorrect, and you're just going to have to get over your concern about women victims or child victims. That's the nature of the genre. So if you come to it, expect it. Criticism is fine. You can critique anything you want, but there has to be an understanding that there are people who are bad faith actors who see the worst in everything, who don't care about this genre, but they just want to control it and stick it to um, the angry white guy, the evil white man. They don't take account into all the different types of people who love this stuff, who genuinely love it. Manga does this thing, and there's all types of people who love manga. And yet, with superhero comics, we have these stupid fucking people making all these demands, and we have these stupid fucking publishing companies hiring people from that set and putting out shitty fucking comics, and then being surprised that they're not being lauded for it. Oh, another thing I wanted to say, as long as it's been going on, another thing I wanted to say right quick. I think anybody who has a genuine interest in these comics, superheroes, will come to it. You can expand your audience by, um, I feel like, catering to somebody else's whims and needs. Like, nobody would say Lifetime or Harlequin romance novels, whatever, should be changed to appeal to the typical straight male reader. But they say it all the time when it comes to superhero comics. But I was thinking about, I don't know, I think maybe it's Yellow Flash. I saw a video a while ago where the creator of the Yakuza games, I have all the fucking Yakuza games. I haven't played any of them yet. I need to get on that. But I get, it's just, they're so long. I feel like I need time. Like I need to be on vacation so I could take the time to really play them. But you look at something like Yakuza, and the guy goes, oh, because I guess people were asking him, is he going to change Yakuza to appeal to, a more female audience? He was like, nope. This is that it's designed for young men, and anybody who comes to it outside of that appreciates that that's what it's for, and they just want to like to be a part of that. They want to like they're looking into that. Like Attack on Titan is what it is. It's not designed to appeal to everybody's sensibilities. You know, like a lot of manga is just it does its thing, and people come to it from different walks of life, and they accept it and they appreciate it. Nobody's read manga saying, "Oh, wow, why as a black man am I not being, properly um, represented in Naruto?" Although I mean, they have a couple of cool black characters in Naruto, I guess, but some of them are still annoying. But uh, yeah, but overall, I feel like if you want to be a part of superhero comics, and this is where the whole where it sounds weird and the whole gatekeeping thing gets shit on. But I understand it. Somebody did a tweet where they said, we have to gatekeep because, you'll have people who come in to your house, change everything around to fit their taste, then fucking leave. and you're stuck with this shit that's been changed, even though you didn't ask for it, and the person who changed it didn't want it. They just did it just to fuck with you. You know, like that guy telling, was it Nindi Okorafor? Was it Nindi Okorafor, the writer of Shuri? And she's also a sci-fi writer. I haven't read her books yet, but when she said that she didn't like race bending and it was a bad idea, it was going to bite us in the ass, us being like black people and black creators, in the ass when it comes time to realizing that we haven't put an investment in characters that we care about, instead of just hijacking a white character and saying, okay, he's black for now, you know, and then the people in the comments going, yeah, but it's fun to piss the racists off. And it's like, this is a game to you then. You don't give a shit about this stuff. I can't imagine anybody who cares about any of these comics or any of these different fandoms who would say something like, oh, get over it. It's fine for this, for Death to look the way she does in the Netflix show. Like, I can't see anybody not going, yeah, I actually want to see Death as she appears in the comics for the most part. There's no respect given to the people who actually put the money into this and who understand the genre. It's like comics, it's better when superhero comics are shameful, you know, and that, you know, I feel like stop trying to make them palatable or make them, what's the word? There's a word, and it's not. What is that word? I'm laughing because it's such a silly thing. It's other words, like stop trying to put him in a suit and tie and make it look presentable. You know, let it be dirty and grungy and racy and problematic, and a little bit weird and dangerous and ridiculous. Let it be all those things. Yeah, I guess that's it. Take care. Bye.